Good morning. Good morning. So today we're talking about strength, but before we talk about that, a friend sent me this. This is really interesting. So today's date is February 2nd, 2020. If you write it out, it's 02/02/2020. If you turn it backwards, it is exactly the same date. And then I started thinking, I wonder how many years, like how long has it been since there was a date like that? Or when is the next time? It's just, and so if you take the date and you turn around, it's exactly the same day. So I don't know what that means, having anything to do with what we're talking about. But I just thought that was like fascinating. So that's all I can see in my mind is 02/02/2020. Turn it around. Take that, and I don't know what you can do with that. But anyway, so today we're talking about strength, which is the second power of the 12 powers. And the 12 powers are those parts of us that were also in Jesus. And the first power was faith, and faith is represented by Peter. The second power is Andrew, and Andrew is Peter's brother. And this is really important because faith without strength isn't going to get you anywhere. And strength without faith isn't going to get you anywhere. The two go together, and that is why they are represented by two brothers. And the color is green. It's actually light green, but you have to excuse me because I only have one color green, and this is it. So this is as close to the green as I'm going to get. But anyway, so this is green. So what is strength? You know, when we talk about strength, so strength, according to the dictionary, there's three main definitions. The first is the quality or state of being strong, bodily or muscular power, vigor. The next one is mental power, force or vigor. And the third is moral power, firmness or courage. So when you think about it, there's really three kinds of strength. There's the physical, there's the mental, and then there's that inner strength, that spiritual. The Revealing Word, which is the Unity book, says that strength is freedom from weakness, stability of character, power to withstand temptation, and capacity to accomplish. So we have these three areas, and what happens is physical strength. You know, we saw the movie The Game Changers a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday night, which was all about these athletes. They're really strong. They're really, it kind of was discouraging because you look at them and you think, I'm happy when I walk a couple of miles. You know, they're running 12 marathons in a day or whatever, some ridiculous thing. And but that's physical strength. And then we have the mental strength. So physical and mental strength can only get you so far. So how many people have seen the movie The Princess Bride? If you haven't seen The Princess Bride, you really must see this movie. This is probably one of the best movies of all times. And it's a silly movie in some ways, but it's got amazing meanings. So The Princess Bride is about this young farm boy who falls in love with this young girl, and he goes off to make enough money to get her to marry him. And anyway, he disappears. His boat is attacked by pirates, and everyone assumes he's dead because the pirate always kills the people he captures. Well, he comes back, and he's trying to get his love, who has now been taken by the prince and wants him for her own bride. So the prince knows that he's coming after him, so he sends 3 people to stop him. He sends a swordsman who's like the greatest swordsman in the land. He sends this big, strong giant, and then he sends the smartest man in the whole land. So he defeats the swordsman, and then he comes across this big giant, and this guy is so big and strong, and our hero is pretty small next to him. And the giant is so sure of himself because he has all this physical strength, but he isn't able to defeat the hero because the hero had some brains, and he was able to beat that. So then he comes across the smartest guy, and the guy, he says, okay, they're going to come to a battle of the wits. So they have some poison. So he puts the poison in 2 cups, and he turns them around, and he says to the man, he says, you pick which cup you want. So the smart guy goes through all this mental shenanigans about, well, if you did this and you did this, and he's trying to reason the answer. And he finally figures that he has the right cup. and he takes the right cup, and it's the wrong cup. And so what has happened was both cups were poisoned, and the hero had built up a tolerance for this poison, so it didn't affect him. So even all the brains and all the brawn could not defeat the hero. And this is what happens to us in life. Sometimes all the brains and all the brawn is not going to get us that far because we need a different kind of strength. We need an inner strength. And this inner strength is, so there is a psychology called transpersonal psychology. And when I was in ministerial school, we had to go see some kind of shrink. I think they figured if you were in ministerial school, you were crazy. So you needed to go to a shrink because to make sure that you're not too crazy. You're just crazy enough to do this. Anyway, so I decided, having been to so many psychologists and psychiatrists in my life, that I was going to go to someone different. So I found this transpersonal psychologist. So transpersonal psychology believes that within every person there is a self with a capital S. That is the part of us that is greater than all the parts of us. And we have all the little selves, which have little s's. And what you do is you go into a meditation. You take the things into meditation, and you allow that self with a capital S to find out what is the right thing for you to do and to look at things in the right way. It's no different than Emily Cady talks about with individuality and personality. So we have this inner being that is really strong, and we can tap into that whenever we need that inner strength. And whatever you believe, you can always tap into that strength. So when I learned meditation, I went to this therapist. This is before the transpersonal one. I went to another therapist, and she believed in meditation instead of medication. And her whole thing was meditation. And I was an atheist at the time. So she told me I needed to meditate, and I was like, oh, don't give me that. You know, you're just trying to get me to believe in something, like some God or something that I'm not going to believe in. And she said, no, all I want you to do is learn to go within. And inside of you, there is this wise being, and everything you know is already within you. And so you're going to go inside and find that wise being. And that wise being can be anything. It doesn't have to be God. It could be a witch. It could be a godmother. It could be anything you want it to be. And you're going to go inward to tap into that inner knowing. And it was an amazing experience. Now, in yoga kind of believes the same thing. The language of yoga is Sanskrit. And in Sanskrit, there is a word called Atma Bala, which is Sanskrit, and it means inner strength or strength of the soul. It is the core strength, which is the person. It also means spiritual strength, inner vitality, or soul force. So this is that inner being. This is that part of us that always knows what's right. And when we come from that, we have a strength that nobody can overcome. It is so strong that it gives us the courage and the power to do what is ours to do, even when we may be afraid of it. So that power comes from this higher consciousness. Now, we can pray to get that, but if we're doing our spiritual work, that power is always there. And it's interesting how sometimes it comes up when we least expect it. So we had a retreat center, and we had a partner who was the money person, and we expected him to basically take care of the farm because we financially couldn't. And one day he came to us and he said, I don't want to do this anymore. I met the woman of my dreams. We're getting engaged. We want to travel. I don't want to do this anymore. So if I was coming from my brain, I would have said, okay, well, we'll sell the farm because financially we couldn't take care of it. But I don't know what happened. This voice came out from me, which, believe me, I would not have done if I gave this any thought at all, and said, no, this is what we are supposed to be doing. we're going to keep doing this. I don't know how we're going to keep doing this. And so we're going to keep the farm going. Now, we owed him $40,000 to be able to do that. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to give you the money, but we're going to do this. And this little part of me is going, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? What are you, crazy? You don't have that money. Why in your... But that was God working through me, doing for me what I could not do for myself. And then he turns around and says, well, I'll tell you what, you don't have to give me the $40,000 now. If you ever sell the place, you can give it to me then. I was like, okay, God. So this inner voice comes up and speaks sometimes for us when we have that connection, and that connection comes from this inner strength, this inner passion that allows us to do the things that we would not do on our own, that gives us the strength to stand up to whoever we have to stand up to stand up for what we know is right, to be in integrity with our beliefs, to be in integrity what our soul's purpose is. And sometimes that is really difficult. So another great movie is Patch Adams. Patch Adams was a medical student, and he would go into the children's wards and he would entertain them with funny things, and he would make the children laugh. And he decided that he was going to treat people that way. And so the medical community wasn't very happy with Patch, because Patch kind of did things wrong, and he was trying to get his medical degree. And so he had to go in front of a board of doctors, and they were going to ask him if he was treating patients and decide whether or not they were going to allow him to continue to go to medical school. And this is the scene from the
medicine
movie.
Without a license. It's a very grave charge, son. Are you aware that it's unlawful to practice medicine without a medical license?
Yes, sir, I am.
Are you aware that running a medical clinic without the proper licensing can place both you and the public in a great deal of danger?
Is a home a clinic, sir?
If you are admitting patients and treating them, physical location is irrelevant.
Yes, sir. Will you define treatment for me?
Yes, treatment would be defined as the care of a patient seeking medical attention. Have you been treating patients, Mr. Adams?
Well, sir, I live with several people. They come and go as they please. I offer them whatever help I can.
Mr. Adams, have you or have you not been treating patients at your ranch?
Everyone who comes to the ranch is a patient, yes. And every person who comes to the ranch is also a doctor.
I'm sorry.
Every person who comes to the ranch is in need of some form of physical or mental help. They're patients. But also every person who comes to the ranch is in charge of taking care of someone else, whether it's cooking for them, cleaning them, or even a simple task as listening. That makes them doctors. I use that term broadly, gentlemen, but is not a doctor someone who helps someone else? When did the term doctor get treated with such reverence as, oh, right this way, Dr. Smith, or excuse me, Dr. Scholes, what wonderful foot pads, or pardon me, Dr. Patterson, but your flatulence has no odor. At what point in history did a doctor become more than a trusted and learned friend who visited and treated the ill? Now, you ask me if I've been practicing medicine. Well, if this means opening your door to those in need, those in pain, caring for them, listening to them, applying a cold cloth until a fever breaks, if this is practicing medicine, if this is treating a patient, then I am guilty as charged, sir.
Did you consider the ramifications of your actions? What if one of your patients had died?
What's wrong with death, sir? What are we so mortally afraid of? Why can't we treat death with a certain amount of humanity and dignity and decency and, God forbid, maybe even humor? Death is not the enemy, gentlemen. If we're going to fight a disease, let's fight one of the most terrible diseases of all, indifference. Now, I've sat in your schools and heard people lecture on transference and professional distance. Transference is inevitable, sir. Every human being has an impact on another. Why don't we want that in a patient-doctor relationship? That's why I've listened to your teachings, and I believe they're wrong. A doctor's mission should be not just to prevent death, but also to improve the quality of life. That's why you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you'll win no matter what the outcome.
That is inner strength. That is the ability to come from a place deep within and be able to stand up for what you believe and know that this is greater than you. So I found this on the web, and I come from a spiritual fellowship where there's a lot of promises in it. And I love the promises because, it makes you feel good to know that if you do something, these good things are going to happen. So I found some promises for inner strength. So the first one is a feeling, a sense of security descends on the psyche, and one feels protected. When we have inner strength, we don't fear as much because we know that we are protected. 2 is a sense of satisfaction. One feels complete and not helpless or hopeless. Someone told me years ago that there are no victims, just volunteers. And so when we have that inner strength, we know that to be true. And 3, the connection with God fills one with sufficient courage to enable us to face the inevitable challenges in life. Challenges happen in life. We cannot avoid them. People get sick, people die, we have financial difficulties, we might lose a job, we might lose a loved one. There is no way to avoid challenges in life. But when we have inner strength, then we have the courage to meet those challenges. Courage isn't the absence of problems. It is the ability to face those problems with dignity and grace. 4, we become patient for good things to happen in our lives. So if we're going through a period that isn't good, we are patient because we have this inner strength and we know that good things are coming. Good things are coming, always. And then 5, the quality of acceptance becomes part of one's nature, and we do not live in denial or delusion. So there's this thing about acceptance. When we can accept something, we're at peace with it. And when we're at peace with it, life becomes easier, and we have that inner strength. And the last one is we begin to evolve spiritually. Folks, evolving spiritually requires inner strength because spiritual growth is going to hurt sometimes. There's a quote I love, and it says that progress, has something to do with progress and problems. Sometimes, the mind just, does anyone have that problem? You're going along really well, and then this blank happens. At one time in my life, I would have called it a blackout. Now I call it a whiteout. So it's like someone just whited out the word. Anyway, we begin to evolve spiritually, and that's what we all want to do, is we want to evolve spiritually. So a good affirmation for this is, I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. I use this affirmation so often in my life. When I feel that I cannot do the next thing, this is the affirmation I use. And it always gives me the strength to go on. So we're going to do a little 12-power meditation. We're doing it for each of the powers. So I invite you to close your eyes. And this is a meditation written by a Charles Roth. So close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. And focus your attention on the crown of the head, which represents that Christ center, that higher part of you. And think a thought like this: the Christ of God is quickened in me. The Christ of God is quickened in me. Next, move your center of attention to your forehead, which you think of as representing your conscious level of mind. to realize you are consciously aware that God is being quickened in you. Say or think, I am aware that God is quickened in me. I am aware that God is quickened in me. Now move your attention to your solar plex, which represents the subconscious level of mind. And in order to accept your awareness that the Christ of God is being quickened in you at the deepest level of your being, affirm, I am grateful that the Christ of God is being quickened in me. I am grateful that the Christ of God is being quickened in me. Now let your center of attention travel to the middle of the head, the faith center, and softly affirm, the Christ in me calls forth Peter, my disciple faculty of faith. The Christ in me calls forth Peter, my disciple faculty of faith. Next, focus your attention through your body to the small of your back, the part of your side and back between the lower ribs and the pelvis. This is the center for strength. And speak these words to yourself. The Christ in me calls forth Andrew, my disciple faculty of strength. The Christ in me calls forth Andrew, my disciple faculty of strength. And from Ephesians, I am strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. I am strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. And conclude this by silently saying, I am grateful. And so it is. Amen.